Ladies and gentlemen, on the Billionaire Lifestyle today, I have Sonya and Sacha. That's Sonya Karras and Sacha Kaluri. These ladies are two of Australia's most sought-after speakers on social commentary for youth issues, helping teens and adults come together to communicate properly, because communication and accepting each other is key in the Billionaire Lifestyle. Stay tuned. We had a great time.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I got some friends from down under. Now, I just came from Hawaii. I'm surprised they weren't there to meet me, but, you know, things happen like that. I have Sonya and Sacha with me, and we're going to talk about motivating. We're going to talk about motivating teens, and we're just going to kick it today. How you guys doing?
Good, Emmett. Good energy. We're ready to get this class started.
So we're getting it started right now. So let me ask you guys something. How did you guys become a team? Were you just friends before, or was there something that brought you together? Was there a common bond that brought you together and said, you know, we fit together?
Oh, do you want me to tell the story, Sonya? Go. Okay, so both of us were speaking to young people. So we're both motivational speakers, and we were both speaking to young people for about a year. And then we had a mutual friend, and the friend actually said to us, you guys should meet because you both do the same job. And our job's a little bit weird. Like, there's not that many people that spend, you know, their days day in and out with teenagers. And so there was an event, and I went along the event to meet this lady called Sonya. And then when I got there, I realised that I had known her because she was actually worked at a door at a club that I used to go to. And she would reject me down the other end of the line because I wasn't a member. And suddenly we kind of, we started talking, and she had this incredible vibe. And I said to her, will you be my friend? And she said, yes, I will be. And we exchanged phone numbers. And we talked on the phone for a couple of hours. And I said, look, you know, do you want to come and see me speak? I'd love to come and see you speak, and let's kind of, you know, see what each other do. And then we found that we both had the same style and same energy. And then probably about within that same year, we realised that we were both spending a whole lot of money marketing our businesses the same. So we thought, why don't we do it together? Because we both have completely different topics and we're not in competition with each other. So, you know, we offer everything that a school kind of, you know, needs in a speaker. So why don't we do that together? And before we kind of knew it, in some kind of organic way, we became Sonya and Sacha, this team that schools knew we were together, and that, you know, we had all these different topics that we would talk to teenagers about. And then we just went, let's just go with this. And then over the years, we've created a whole lot of things like the Australian Teenage Expo, which is Australia's largest youth educational event, where we give young people a whole lot of information on services they can access, you know, educational facilities that they can access, employment things, a whole lot of things like that, with our show, which is called the Sonya and Sacha Show, which was a little bit of a hard name to come up with, Emmett. That was very creative of me.
2 days. 2 days of workshopping on that one.
It was that and show that was the hard bit to put in. And then we thought, well, so we created a TV show, which is national, which is on somewhere around the country every single day, and that's aimed at giving that information out to parents. And then we have our radio show, which is once a week, and we have a book called The Two Worlds of Your Teenager. And now we're about to launch our own podcast as well.
Oh, that's awesome! So if you need any tips, I'll give those to you. Because there's a couple of things that you have to do before you launch your podcast. There's like 3 things, but I'll tell you what those are post this show. Now, with teenagers, I've come through several incarnations of teenagers, and they can be a handful. My first go around, I had all girls. So that was, and I was the only guy in the house. And I realized that communication could be an odd and taxing thing. Do you guys help parents and teenagers communicate with each other as well?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So a lot of our work is with parents as well, and the TV show is definitely aimed at parents of children of all ages. But our jam is teenagers because we're in front of them every single day. And so we know what makes them tick. We know the kind of language they're using. We know what they're doing when they're going out. We know the fears that they have for their futures and the excitement that they have. So it's a pleasure for us to get in front of parents and say, look, this is what we know, because we've spent all of this time, 17 years in being in front of them and connecting with them. So we've got all this really great information. And, I think probably the millennials have been given a bit of a bad rap, well, they're lazy and they're hard to communicate with and they're flipper-floppering around and they don't stay in employment very long or they move on quickly. In our experience, it's really different. I think the way that we communicate with young people is that we really get onto their level and we understand, we don't judge, we don't preach, and we're open to their ideas, and they've got some pretty amazing stuff going on if you're willing to listen in the right way. So communication is key with what all the programs that we do.
Yeah, and that's what just struck me, because you said millennials as well, and you're literally a whole half a world away, but you're experiencing the same thing. So it's a global phenomenon. And when you're talking with kids, they see two adult people up here and they don't categorize you like with their teachers or somebody else. How do they connect with you guys?
It's so cool. Sorry, Sacha, let's just take the first part. One of the coolest parts, I think, about what we do is, and then Sacha will delve into this a bit more, but the coolest part is that we'll stand in front of an audience of teenagers and the teacher will introduce us, and they often do that in a pretty boring way, don't they, Sacha? And you can see the eye rolls in the audience, and we love that because they're expecting us to be like everybody else. And the body language is sitting back. Oh, who the hell is this chick? What's she going to say? What's she going to say? I can't wait. What's for lunch? Like they'll be, where's the cute guy that I like? Where's he sitting? And then you'll see their eyes just glaze over and roll. And then, you give them sort of 5 or 10 minutes and their body language is totally different. They're sitting forward. They try and put you in a box. They'll try and say, is she going to preach at us? Is she going to bore us? Is she going to what? And then we throw something that's totally different at them in the first few minutes and they're like, oh, okay, got to take us out of that box and we might give you a shot. So I love that. I think Sacha and I both really love that when we convert the audience straight away.
Awesome.
Sacha, what?
Oh, absolutely. Like I don't think that we've actually grown up. So I think that they know that we haven't really left high school. So we're just them and with a whole lot of knowledge that we want to give it back, but we're speaking the same language, that we're even thinking the same. So we absolutely love, and the energy, we'll match that energy, because a lot of the time, a lot of the speakers will get in front of a group of young people, and especially when you get a group of hardcore young people, like that are, we're not talking about the perfect audience. We're talking about some scary people that will tell you in 2.5 seconds, you are crap. Like they aren't going to lie. This is not like a corporate audience that'll kind of give you a little golf clap to say, oh, you are very good. Like these people will show you in their body language and their words exactly what they think of you. So, in fact, I guess probably we love it. Like we love that. Like, some of the times we just say, give us the more hardcore that you can probably get. We'll bring it on.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the teachers will introduce. The teachers will introduce us, won't they, Sacha? And they'll be like, they'll say before, for a tricky audience, or these guys, you sure you don't need a break? Like 90 minutes is a long time to be talking to teenagers. You maybe should have a break in the middle. And we're like, we don't need a break. We're cool. Yeah, the feistier the better. And they kind of don't get it until we get up there and start doing our thing, and then they're like, oh, okay, right, understand. And the audiences are angels for us, but they're tricky for them because they're boring usually.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I was having this conversation a little bit ago about learning and about school, and I was thinking back on my primary school career, and one of the things that kind of demotivated me, and I only realize that now, is they never told me the why in whatever they were teaching me. They just start showing me these things and expect me to understand what to apply it. And that would turn people off. But I want to divulge a little bit and try to understand how you guys individually then coming together are so passionate about working with children. Not children, but teenagers and parents and just that group that's younger than the age of responsibility, so to speak.
I guess that looking back, there's a couple of things. Firstly, like we just said, we haven't actually grown up. So we're just teenagers in adult bodies with big responsibilities. So we haven't really grown up. Like we have a mortgage and we live like adults, but deep down inside we haven't really grown up. So that's, I guess, one thing. And the second thing is that we haven't actually forgotten what it's like to be a teenager. So we still remember and value the feelings that they've got. So, when you get heartbroken, you're a teenager, it feels the same as when you're heartbroken and you're an adult. We don't dismiss it. When you've got issues with your friends and you've got issues with your parents or relationships and all of those stuff, they're real. And in fact, you don't actually know how to manage them. So you need some clear ideas and strategies on how to manage those feelings that you're actually having. I think a lot of the time, a lot of adults will dismiss it and say, oh, they've broken your heart. Don't worry, plenty more fish in the sea, and rattle off a whole lot of things. But, if your friend comes and says, oh, my husband's left me, the first thing you're not going to turn around and say is, oh, plenty more fish in the sea, you'll be right. You console them, but it's the same feeling.
Yeah.
So it's really about validating who they really are and understanding what they're going through, even with their friendships.
Yeah, that's true.
And their feelings towards school and failure. And, it's the same kind of feeling of failure when we try and set up something new. They have the same kind of thing when they're finishing high school.
Yeah.
What am I going to be? Where am I going to go? What should I do? What are the expectations of me? What happens if I fail? What happens if I don't do well? What if I don't get that? Or what if I don't have anyone that's supporting me? On the flip side, we work with complete extremes audiences. So, we can work with the most, privileged of young person that their expectations are, you must be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer and you're going to create really good things, yet all they want to do is be a YouTuber and, their parents are like, are you serious? You can't do that for a job. We've spent so much money on your education. Or, the best that you want to come up with is being a hairdresser or a makeup artist. There's no way with the amount of money we've spent on your education that you're possibly doing that. But then on the flip side, on the other side is that, they're a young person that sort of say, I want to go off to university and I want to study. And their families will say, hang on a minute, you're just going to go out there and get a trade. You're not going to be anything. Nobody in our family, don't get those expectations up too high. And so there's those extremes, and then there's everything in the middle.
One of you guys' main premises is not only the communication, but how do you get parents and teenagers to communicate to where they really bond and understand each other, where each other is coming from?
So the major thing that we tell parents about communicating with their children is to do something that they love. So what is it that your child does that they talk about all the time? Their eyes light up, they have fun, they're the best version of themselves while they're doing that. And then you do that with them. So if that's throw a ball around, it's do that. If that's go for a run, if it's take them for a manicure, if it's sitting and watching some YouTube clips together, if it's playing a PlayStation, or whatever Xbox game, if that requires that you need to learn how to do that, then you need to learn how to do that, or sit with them and say, show me how this works, invite me into that world. And so when they're doing something that's really fun, it just that kind of interrogation factor of when parents, ask their kids questions, and it's like, well, what do you ask me that for? And you're in my face, and that kind of melts away, and you actually get to just have a cool, non-stressful conversation while you're doing something that they love. And it shows that you really want to be a part of their world and that you've got an interest in what they're doing. And those lines of communication will start to open. Sacha and I are both mums, but I have a stepdaughter as well who's 23, and so she was a very social butterfly, and I knew she would always go to parties, and I knew that that was an important thing to her. So I would always ask, how was the party? Who hooked up with who? What's going on? And if I could remember some of the names of the key players, then we were on. She talked about it. Now, Emmett, did I care who hooked up with who at the party? No, I did not. But was it important to her? Yeah, it was. And so, that meant that she knew that she could come to me and talk to me about those things. Sometimes she came to me with stuff that I did not prefer to know about, but, it was still, I got some early questions, but rather they come to me than someone who'll give her incorrect or stupid information. So, you find that thing that they love and you do that with them.
That's awesome. Also, it's a different culture now. I don't know how old you are, but I've been out of high school for quite a few decades here. And some things stay the same, other things change. And one thing that changes is some of the culture around when kids party together. When I was younger, is pretty much the worst you could do is smoke marijuana and drink beer. But it's gotten far more extensive than that, and in addition with sexual activity. So how do you talk to your kids? How do you speak to these teenagers to inform them of the most responsible way they can navigate the party scene when they're a teenager?
Well, I talk to them about the key with when we're in front of audiences is you make them laugh and you tell them stories. Okay, so you work in that content and the information and the lines that you'd like to get across, but you put it into a story, or you deliver the information and then you put a story, to back it up. Young people can't stand statistics. They don't care if 23% of the world's da-da-da and 43% of those people go over there and do that. They don't care. And to be honest, mostly parents don't either. They'll say, oh, that's terrible, and then they'll walk out and they can't remember. It's give them the information in the most interesting way possible. Don't preach at them. Don't say, don't do this. Say, if it was a parent-child conversation, then it would be, this is what I would like to happen with us. This is how the way that our family operates is that we look after each other, we respect each other, we love each other. And part of that means that I, care about you, I want to protect you, I want to look after you. And these are the things that I am worried, I don't want to have happen in our family, okay? And here's the boundaries, because if you give a child some rules and some boundaries, they will most likely try and find 10 ways of breaking them, but at least, yeah. If it's a free-for-all and you have no rules and boundaries and expectations, then they don't have any way of being guided. They'll just go out there and do crazy stuff, yeah. So as a parent-child sort of vibe, I would be, you're setting, particularly around alcohol and drugs. This is the age this is the law age, and the ages are different in our countries. This is the law. This is what I would like to have happen in our family. And if you break those rules within our family, then, there's going to be some consequences for that. But I always want you to call me if stuff goes wrong. I don't care what happens. I'll pick you up and we'll talk about it the next day. Constantly be reminding them that you are there and that you love them to the max, and nothing they could do would ever stop that. But, so that's that line that we write as parents, isn't it? It's that, this is what I want you to do, but still I don't want you to do, to never feel like you can't call me if it all goes pear-shaped. And when we're talking to our audiences at large, it is absolutely imperative that we tell stories and we keep them entertained and funny, because that's the stuff that lives on. And afterwards, when we've walked away, some of the content that we will have given them is not going to stay, but the stories do. They'll go back and say, oh, this chick that we listened to today, she said this story, and they'll tell it. And then that gets told to their friends and their cousins and their family members. And that's the best way that I think that we get the information across the most effectively.
And I also think that when you've got kids that are a little bit younger, so for example, if you're right in the heart of having a whole lot of teenagers, at home, but if you've also got some younger kids that are around 8, 10, 12, and they're not acting up, that you actually start the communication early and openly, so that by the time they've got it, it's no big deal, and you're not coming out and saying, hey, by the way, when something goes wrong, I just thought I'd let you know that you might want to call me. they've been getting that information constantly. But it's really important to understand that even if you've got young people, but they may not be going out, or they may not have hit their teenage years, but they've hit, 8, 10, 12, that you start those conversations really early, and that you talk to them about what the potential things can happen and what would happen if, they were in an unsafe environment, or they needed to get your help really instantly. Then you would actually start those conversations early, so that by the time they really do need that information, they've actually had it drip fed to them over the course of many years. So you're just kind of giving them that refresher when they're going out. So it's not like you're sitting there saying, hey, my child's about to start going out partying, I better overload them with information. Start to give them that information really, really quickly. And that can be on a whole lot of levels, and that can also be by when you're actually seeing an example. And it kind of can be in lots of different examples. It doesn't necessarily mean it's just with drugs and alcohol. Like, certainly both Sonya and I, when we've got our kids out and we do see people under the effects of drugs or under the effects of alcohol, that we do point out, hey, that's the kind of stuff that can actually happen, so that they're really well aware of what goes on. But then on the flip side, my topic is all around careers, and how do you choose the career of your dreams, and how do you follow what you want, and how do you work hard to get to where you want to be. I'm constantly using those things as examples, and saying, and using myself as an example. So right now, it's in the middle of the night for us, and my kids are saying, well, Mum, why are you working, and who are you talking to? Why are you doing this sort of stuff? And I said, well, that's what Mum needs to do for a job, and the reason I'm doing this is because this is going to get us here, and exposure for there, and and expose them to how hard people work. So rather than them thinking, or people just get it handed to them on a silver platter, they get to see the background information on how hard it takes to get to where you want to be. It doesn't just, land for you.
Very good. How do you help kids navigate forward when they're thinking about after high school, after primary school, when they're going, or should I go to college? Should I learn a trade? What do I want to do with my life? How do you help navigate that for people? Because it's changed in the last couple of generations. Usually, you left school and you went one of two paths. You either went to work for a manufacturing job. At least that's how it was here in the Americas. You went for a manufacturing job, or you went to college, and then you had more options. But today's working environment is really different, and you need certain skills just as a base level. So how do you help kids navigate that?
I guess the first thing that I talk about, that I'm extremely passionate about talking about with young people, is for them to start to listen and ask themselves questions about what it is that you want to do. So there's no point going off to uni to study something if, you're not actually passionate about it. Like, what is it that you're really passionate about? Because then that'll actually make it so much easier to, if you are passionate about studying a particular topic, then you'll stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and studying it because you're actually interested, not because it's going to get you a job and it's going to go somewhere else. It's because you are passionate. You just can't get enough of that information. On the flip side, do a trade because you love it. Like, you can't stop thinking about it. It's, it's in the air that you breathe. You want to do it. This is what it is. And so sometimes young people say, well, I don't even know what that is. And I always go, let's go back down to basics. Okay, what is it that when you talk about this particular topic, let's not think about a career now. Let's just think of a topic. When you talk about this topic, you light up. You can't stop thinking about it. You're up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning watching YouTube clips about it. You're following people on Instagram that are thinking about it and looking at it and eating, dreaming about it. What is it that you're talking about? And some of them, they might go, oh, well, and they may be talking about a trade, or they may be talking about going off to uni and doing something, and they'll say, oh, well, I love talking about food, or I love talking about travel, or I'm into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, for me, the topic is actually irrelevant. I just go, what is it that you want to do? Now, that's the area that you focus on. That's the passion that it'll get, because that's the area that will take you to the next level. Don't go off and do something to make somebody else happy or what society thinks that you want to do. I mean, my parents, if I did a job that my parents wanted me to do, well, they're certainly not waking me up every morning and go, hey, Sash, get up and go to work every day, or They're not giving me a pep talk every time I get in front of an audience and go, these guys are going to be really good. I mean, they're a hard audience, but they're going to be really, really good. They're not doing that. So I'm doing all that stuff by myself. So it's not about making sure that we do it for anybody else to be happy. And I understand from a parent's perspective, because I'm a parent, so I understand when a young person comes to you and says, oh, they want to do a particular job, and in your mind you think, how are you going to make money from that? Like, how are you going to possibly survive in the world? Like, you need to be realistic about this. And, I understand from a parent's perspective, because really all we want for our child is to be financially secure and have the luxuries of life and, do it as easy as much easier than possibly what we've done. But at the end of the day, they need to be happy in their own self. Yeah, that's the key. So, and young people want different things. I mean, sure, they want money and they want, the great things of life as well. But they also want to feel valued, and they also want to make sure that what they're doing means something to the world and means something to themselves. So what is it? So I tend to say, let's go backwards and say, what is it that you love to do? Now let's work out a way for you to get paid to do it. Now, you might not get that answer straight away, and that might not be something that you can, open up and find the key elements of what you're going to do absolutely straight away. But you can start to ask yourself the right question.
Awesome. And
ask yourself, you might not work it out until you're 25, but you are asking yourself that every single day. And I guess the difference in that between a young person in today versus us is that we didn't ask ourselves those questions all the time, over and over and over and over again. And then reevaluating that and reinventing ourselves and kind of going, well, I thought this was the answer, but now it's 2 or 3 years later and I actually don't think that that's the answer, and what could it possibly be now? So it's about giving them the questions that they need to ask them, not actually finding the answers for them.
That's absolutely correct, because I've reinvented my career probably about 5 times in my adulthood. And a lot of it didn't even start as anything to make money. It just started because I was passionate about it, and eventually it fell into that. And someone was asking me the other day, hey, how do you live this amazing life? I'm like, first of all, I find out a niche that someone needs that I'm passionate about, and if I could help them. 2, I follow that passion, and that ultimately brings me to happiness and sustainability. Now, you guys are in Australia. Is there any chance you guys are coming to the States or traveling to other countries to spread your message?
Oh my God, I don't know if you can actually see me, but my jaw's about to drop. We are on our way there, Emmett. We are coming there in 3 weeks.
Where are you go? What city are you going to be?
New York City, baby.
Oh my Lord. Whoo. Watch your wallet.
We're hitting the Big Apple. It's summer in Australia, so we're going to hit the snow.
Oh, good luck. So let me give you some advice. When you come to New York, you're going to be really close to Washington, D.C. You're going to be close to a lot of major cities. If you're here for more than a week, I suggest that you hit Baltimore, D.C., look up several cities in New Jersey, and you could probably even hit Boston, all in a short time period because they're very close together. But what other ways can people reach you and find out more information about you, particularly coming to America, so I can make sure that I have this up by the time you get here?
Thank you. So our website is Sonya and Sacha, so SONYA and SACHA.com.au, because we're in Australia, you've got to put that .au on the end. And across all of our social media platforms, it's just at Sonya and Sacha. So everyone can follow us and like and see what we get up to in the city of New York. We are so excited. We cannot wait.
Just remember.
I'm going to be singing Alicia Keys and Jay-Z the whole time. I'm so excited.
Hold on, you have to see my face on this one.
Yeah, let us see you.
Do you know? What do you mean? You can't do me that face when I said Alicia Keys.
Because it's like me when I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to see, It's like
You didn't even know
it's just like I'm gonna hang out at rugby games and watch kangaroos. That's kind of how it sounds, because it's so big over here, and that's what most people don't get who are not from America. Because I work for several European companies, and they come here and they're like, "Hey, let's go to California." I'm like, "That's 2,000 miles away," or let's go. I'm like, "This is a big place," but what you should do is just take in that experience. How long are you guys going to be here in New York?
About 5 days.
Oh, yeah, that's a really short amount of time. So what are you guys doing when you get to New York?
We're actually coming to New York to interview some high-profile people for our podcast. So our concept for our podcast is to interview high-profile people that have experienced something around parenting and deliver some high-quality content that is also entertaining, that gives people some information on how they can also, how the high-profile person has dealt with their parenting issue, and then how they can actually give some advice on how the average person can deal with exactly the same issue. One of the things that Sonya and I have worked out along the road is that when you become a parent, it all brings you down to the same level. So it doesn't matter what you earn. It doesn't matter what your profile is. It doesn't matter, what you do for a job. At the end of the day, we all have guilt. We all, love our kids. We all are fearful about what's going to happen and how we can best give them the best advice. And we're all, we all cry. We've all cleaned up vomit and poo and all of that sort of stuff, right? So it kind of brings us all down to the same level, right? It doesn't really matter who.
That's true. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Here's one thing that I always give at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all billionaires. If you look at the tip of your finger to the middle of to where your wrist and your hand meet, between that point, you will find that there are at least 1 billion cells. You've had 1 billion thoughts since you were born. You've had emotions of the same count. Too many to name. Thoughts. You are connected, just as I am connected to you guys, because we share the same air. But there's one thing that you have to do. There's actually 2 things. You have to love yourself, and you have to love others as you love yourself. So if you could communicate with that person, even just in a gesture, that means they are on your plane, and treat them as you would be treated, and make sure that you practice. When you get out the shower, look in the mirror and realize just how much of a miracle you actually are. It is so important for this love to spread, because we are in a transition point on this planet, and we want to leave a better place for these children that we are talking about, who we are trying to communicate with. Thank you, Sacha. Thank you, Sonya.
Oh, love that. Love that, Emma. Thank you so much.
All right. So we are concluding, and we are out. Peace.
Peace.